From the ashes of extinction, Captain Maya Chen stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching as Earth, once vibrant blue and green, now appeared as a charred, lifeless sphere against the blackness of space. 3 months had passed since the Krell invasion, since 7 billion human lives had been extinguished in a coordinated orbital bombardment that lasted less than 36 hours. The alien empire had arrived without warning, without demands, without mercy, only the cold efficiency of a species that had conquered 17 star systems before encountering humanity. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Torres," Lieutenant Riza Farsi reported from his station. "It's marked urgent." Maya nodded, her expression grim. "Put him through." Admiral Torres's weathered face appeared on the view screen, the strain of the past months visible in his deepened wrinkles, and the gray that had overtaken his once black hair. "Captain Chen, status report on Operation Sanctuary." "We've successfully evacuated the Europa Research Base, sir. 417 survivors aboard. That brings our total to just under 15,000. 15,000 survivors, all that remained of a civilization that once numbered in the billions. The Krell had been thorough, methodically destroying every major population center, military installation, and resource hub on Earth. When they discovered the lunar colonies, they hit those too. Mars was bombarded next. The only reason the Defiance and the handful of other stealth vessels in their Ragdig fleet still existed was because they'd been equipped with experimental quantum displacement technology that made them invisible to Krell sensors. Technology developed by Dr. Eliza Okarik, now dead along with most of Earth's greatest minds. "That matches our count," Torres confirmed. "And the Krell fleet, still in Earth orbit. They've deployed mining vessels to extract rare minerals from the crust. It seems they've moved from extermination to resource harvesting." Torres's expression darkened. "They think we're extinct. That there's nothing left of humanity but ruins and resources." He leaned closer to the camera. "That's our only advantage, Captain." Maya knew what he meant. The Krell conquest pattern was consistent across all the systems they'd conquered. Arrive without warning, obliterate all major population centers and military threats in a single overwhelming assault, then extract valuable resources before moving on. They never expected resistance after their initial attack, because there never had been any. Until humanity. "What about Project Lazarus?" Maya asked, lowering her voice although they were on a secure channel. Torres' expression shifted, a faint spark of hope igniting in his tired eyes. "Dr. Kaminsky reports they've made a breakthrough. They need more time, but it might work, Maya. It actually might work." For the first time since watching her homeworld burn, Maya felt something other than grief and rage. If Project Lazarus succeeded, humanity might have a fighting chance against the seemingly invincible Krell. "Change of plans, Captain," Torres continued. "Instead of rendezvousing at the Callisto outpost, I need you to proceed directly to Titan. Coordinates follow." Maya frowned. "Titan? There's nothing on Titan." "That's what the Krell think too." Torres's lips curved into a grim smile. "And that's why it's perfect. The journey to Saturn's largest moon took 3 tense weeks, during which the Defiance and its precious cargo of survivors maintained complete communication silence. The stealth technology kept them invisible to Krell sensors, but even the slightest transmission might give away their position. When they finally arrived at the coordinates Torres had provided, Maya was astonished to discover an entire underground facility carved within Titan's ice crust, hidden beneath a seemingly ordinary impact crater. The hangar doors opened to admit the Defiance, revealing a vast cavern filled with activity. People working with purpose, machinery humming, life continuing despite everything. Admiral Torres met them at the airlock, accompanied by a tall, austere woman with close-cropped silver hair and piercing blue eyes. "Captain Chen," Torres greeted her. "Welcome to Phoenix Base. Allow me to introduce Dr. Vivian Kaminsky, Director of Project Lazarus." Kaminsky extended her hand. "Captain, your reputation precedes you." "As does yours, Doctor. Is it true you were developing weapons to counter the Krell before the invasion? Not weapons. Kaminsky's eyes flashed. Something better. She led them through the facility, explaining as they walked. The Titan base was established 5 years ago as a Black Ops research station, when the first Krell scout ships were detected at the edge of our solar system. A team of scientists was quietly transferred here to study them. How did you know they were hostile? Maya asked. We intercepted and decoded some of their communications, Kaminsky replied. Enough to understand their intentions. We tried to warn Earth's governments, but, she shrugged, politicians rarely listen to scientists until it's too late. They entered a large laboratory where dozens of researchers worked at various stations. In the center stood a strange device that pulsed with a soft blue light. It was surprisingly small, no larger than a standard military backpack. Its surface covered with a complex pattern of interlocking hexagons that seemed to shift and change as they watched. This, Kaminsky said with quiet pride, is Lazarus. Torres frowned. It's smaller than I expected. Size isn't everything, Admiral, Kaminsky replied with a thin smile. What you're looking at is the culmination of 3 years of research into Krell quantum technology. We reverse-engineered it from fragments we collected from their scout ships. What does it do? Maya asked, studying the device with growing interest. Kaminsky's eyes gleamed. It turns their greatest strength against them. She explained that the Krell relied on a specific quantum frequency for virtually all their technology. Communications, weapons, shields, even their biomechanical exoskeletons. Lazarus disrupted that frequency, not just jamming it but actually reversing the phase alignment. Their shields collapse, weapons backfire, communications become impossible, Kaminsky explained. And those exoskeletons they're so proud of. They lock up, trapping the Krell inside. Maya stared at the device with newfound respect. Have you tested it? On salvaged Krell technology, yes. It works perfectly at short range. The challenge has been expanding the effective radius. How far can it reach? Torres pressed. Currently, about 3 kilometers. But to affect an entire Krell fleet, we'd need dozens of these devices, Maya finished. Or, Kaminsky said, place one at the heart of their network. Their command ship. The quantum disruption would cascade through their entire communication system, affecting every connected Krell vessel. Torres frowned. You're talking about a suicide mission. Their flagship is the most heavily defended vessel in the system. Not necessarily suicide. Maya said slowly, an idea forming. We still have the Defiance and its stealth capabilities. And they think we're extinct, remember. They're not looking for us. 3 weeks later, Operation Lazarus was ready. Intelligence gathered from a small Krell mining outpost on Ceres, captured using a prototype of the Lazarus device, had provided them with the patrol schedules of the Krell fleet around Earth. The plan was audacious. Use the Defiance to slip past the Krell defenses, plant the Lazarus device on their command ship, and trigger a cascading failure throughout their entire network. As Maya stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the blue-green orb of Earth grow larger in the view screen, she felt a strange mix of emotions. Grief for what had been lost, rage at those who had taken it, and now, for the first time, hope for what might yet be saved. Approaching Earth orbit, Lieutenant Farsi reported. Stealth systems functioning at optimal capacity. Take us in, Lieutenant, Maya ordered. Nice and easy. They slipped past the Krell patrol vessels undetected, positioning themselves beneath the massive command ship, a behemoth the size of a small city, bristling with weapons. The boarding party was small. Maya, 2 engineers to plant the device, and 4 Marines for protection. They wore specially designed suits that would shield them from the effects of the Lazarus device when it activated. Using breaching technology developed at the Titan base, they cut through the Krell ship's hull at a maintenance access point, bypassing the heavily guarded airlocks. Once inside, they moved through service corridors, avoiding Krell patrols when possible, and using small, localized versions of the Lazarus technology to neutralize those they couldn't avoid. The Krell themselves were a shock to see up close. Towering biomechanical entities over 2 meters tall, with 4 articulated limbs and carapaces that shimmered with an oily iridescence. Inside their locked exoskeletons, Maya caught glimpses of something unsettlingly insectoid. They reached the central communications hub after an hour of tense infiltration. The engineers worked quickly to install the Lazarus device, connecting it to the Krell ship's power systems to amplify its effect. "Devices armed and ready, Captain," the lead engineer reported. "Remote detonator synchronized." "Good work," Maya replied. "Let's get out of here." Their extraction was nearly complete when a Krell patrol discovered them just 2 corridors from their entry point. In the ensuing firefight, one of the Marines was killed, and Maya took a glancing hit to her left arm. But they made it back to the Defiance, sealing the airlock behind them just as more Krell converged on their position. "Get us to safe distance," Maya ordered as she strapped into the captain's chair, blood seeping through her makeshift bandage. "Prepare to activate Lazarus on my mark." The Defiance pulled away from the command ship, its stealth systems still rendering it invisible to Krell sensors. When they reached a distance of 5 kilometers, Maya gave the order. "Activate Lazarus." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, throughout the Krell fleet, ships began to drift out of formation. Weapons platforms went dark. Communication arrays fell silent. On the command ship, the effect was even more dramatic. The vessel's engines flared and died, its shield generators overloaded in cascading explosions that rippled along its hull, and its weapon systems fired randomly before shutting down completely. "It's working," Farsi breathed, watching the sensor readings. "Their systems are failing across the entire fleet." Maya allowed herself a small, grim smile. "Send the signal to Admiral Torres. Tell him Lazarus is risen, and so is humanity." The Phoenix Protocol. 6 months after Operation Lazarus, the war had transformed from a desperate last stand into an organized resistance movement. The crippling of the Krell command ship had thrown their forces into disarray, creating a window of opportunity that humanity had seized with both hands. Maya Chen, now commander of the reconstituted Earth Defense Fleet, stood in the war room of Phoenix Base on Titan, studying the holographic display of known Krell positions throughout the solar system. Their once overwhelming presence had been reduced to isolated outposts, primarily concentrated around resource-rich areas they were still attempting to mine. "The Phoenix Protocol has been distributed to all our active cells," reported General Sato, formerly a Special Forces commander and now Maya's chief of military operations. "The results have been consistent. Complete destruction of Krell systems within the effective radius." The Phoenix Protocol was the evolved version of Project Lazarus, more powerful, with a greater range and refined targeting capabilities that allowed it to affect Krell technology, while leaving human systems untouched. Dr. Kaminsky and her team had worked tirelessly to improve the technology, reverse engineering more Krell systems with each successful raid. "Production?" Maya asked. "Dr. Kaminsky has streamlined the process. We can now manufacture 1 device every 36 hours, but we're limited by certain rare materials." Maya nodded. Resource scarcity remained their greatest challenge. With Earth under Krell occupation and most of the inner system's mining operations destroyed, they relied on covert extraction missions to secure the necessary components. "What about the situation at Jupiter's L4 point?" she asked. Sato's expression brightened. "The Defiance returned from its reconnaissance mission this morning. Lieutenant Farsi is debriefing now, but his preliminary report is unexpected." As if on cue, Risa Farsi entered the war room, accompanied by a figure that was decidedly not human. The alien stood nearly 2 meters tall with luminescent copper-gold skin and 4 arms that moved with fluid grace. A crest of flexible spines ran from its forehead down its back, and its large, multifaceted eyes glowed with an inner light. Despite its intimidating appearance, its posture was non-threatening, almost deferential. "Commander," Farsi began, "may I present Emissary Phallic of the Solari Resistance." The alien inclined its head in what Maya recognized as a gesture of respect. "Commander Chen," it spoke in surprisingly melodic English, "it is an honor to meet the one who struck the first effective blow against the Krell Dominion." Maya managed to hide her shock, extending her hand in greeting. "The honor is mine, Emissary, though I'm curious how you come to speak our language so well." Phallic made a trilling sound that might have been laughter. "We have been observing your species for some time. Your broadcast transmissions were quite educational. And when the Krell came, the alien's multifaceted eyes darkened. We recognized a pattern we had seen before." Over the next few hours, Phallic explained the nature of the Solari, a species whose homeworld had been conquered by the Krell nearly 60 Earth years earlier. Like humans, they had managed to preserve a portion of their population and had been waging a guerrilla war against their conquerors ever since. "We detected the quantum disruption you unleashed 6 months ago," Phallic explained. "It affected Krell operations far beyond your solar system, creating vulnerabilities we were quick to exploit. We had to investigate the source." "And now?" Maya asked. "Now, Commander Chen, I propose an alliance. Your Phoenix technology combined with our knowledge of Krell territory and operations could turn the tide of a war that has raged for generations." The alliance with the Solari transformed the Resistance. The aliens provided humanity with star charts detailing Krell-controlled systems, intelligence on their fleet movements, and most crucially, access to supply lines that alleviated their resource shortages. In return, the Phoenix Protocol gave the Solari a weapon that could neutralize the Krell's technological advantage. Together, they began coordinating strikes against Krell outposts throughout the solar system, gradually pushing the invaders back. But Maya knew that tactical victories wouldn't be enough. As long as the Krell Empire remained intact, they would eventually regroup and return with an even larger force. To truly secure humanity's future, they needed to strike at the heart of the Krell Dominion itself. The plan that emerged was as ambitious as it was dangerous. Use a captured Krell cruiser to infiltrate the Krell homeworld, Vexthor, and deploy an enhanced version of the Phoenix Protocol directly into their central network hub. According to Phallic, this would not only disrupt Krell technology throughout their empire, but also expose the truth that the Krell leadership had been concealing from their own population. "The Krell are not a naturally aggressive species," Phallic explained during the mission briefing. "Their empire is built on a foundation of lies, that the species they conquer are inherently violent and pose an existential threat to Krell survival." "Propaganda," Maya said. "Yes, their leadership maintains control by perpetuating fear. If we can access their central communication network, we can broadcast the truth, not just to other conquered species, but to the Krell themselves." The mission to Vexthor would be led by Maya herself, accompanied by Dr. Kaminsky, a team of engineers, and a contingent of Solari operatives, familiar with Krell security protocols. They would travel aboard the Vindication, a captured Krell cruiser modified to conceal its human and Solari occupants. As they prepared for departure, Admiral Torres approached Maya in the hangar bay. "This is beyond a high-risk mission, Maya," he said quietly. "If you fail." "If we fail, humanity fights on," she replied firmly. "Phoenix Base remains hidden, and the resistance continues. But if we succeed, we don't just save Earth, we liberate 17 conquered worlds." Torres studied her face, then nodded slowly. "Your parents would be proud." Maya thought of her mother and father, both killed during the initial Krell bombardment of Beijing. "This isn't about revenge," she said, more to herself than to Torres. "It's about ensuring that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." The journey to Vexthor took 3 weeks through Krell-controlled space, during which the Vindication maintained its cover as a routine transport vessel. When they finally arrived, the sight of the Krell homeworld was awe-inspiring. A massive ringed planet surrounded by an intricate network of orbital stations and defense platforms. Using access codes provided by the Solari, they docked at a maintenance facility on the outermost orbital ring, where security was lighter. From there, they would need to traverse to the central network hub, a heavily fortified installation at the heart of the Krell capital city. The infiltration team moved through the Krell facility in groups of 2 and 3, disguised as maintenance workers using holographic technology developed by combining human and Solari science. Dr. Kaminsky carried the enhanced Phoenix device, now called Genesis, in a shielded case designed to appear as standard Krell equipment. Their progress was steady until they reached the central security checkpoint leading to the network hub. Here, their forged credentials failed to pass the more stringent verification process. As alarms began to sound, Maya made a split-second decision. New plan, she announced over their secure comms. Dr. Kaminsky, Phallic, continue to the objective with half the team. The rest of us will create a diversion. Before anyone could object, Maya led her group in a frontal assault on the checkpoint, using localized Phoenix devices to disable the Krell guards' weapons and exoskeletons. The firefight that ensued drew security forces from throughout the facility, clearing the path for Kaminsky's team to proceed undetected. Maya and her diversion team fought a running battle through the facility's corridors, eventually becoming cornered in a maintenance bay. As Krell forces surrounded them, she received the transmission she'd been waiting for. "Genesis is in position," came Kaminsky's voice over the comm. 30 seconds to activation. Maya looked at the Krell commander who had stepped forward, its imposing exoskeleton towering over her. Through its transparent faceplate, she could see the insectoid features that had haunted humanity's nightmares for months. "You have no escape," it said in a harsh, clicking language that their translators now understood. "Surrender, and your death will be quick." Maya smiled coldly. "We're not here to escape. We're here to set everyone free, including you." Confusion registered in the Krell's compound eyes just as Genesis activated throughout the Krell facility. And then, in a cascading wave that spread across the planet and outward to every connected Krell vessel and installation, systems failed, weapons went offline, communications networks crashed, and most importantly, the central propaganda network that had kept the Krell population under control for centuries was replaced by the truth. Recordings of Krell leaders planning unprovoked attacks, admitting that conquered species posed no threat, and detailing how fear was used to control their own population. In the confusion that followed, Maya and her surviving team members fought their way back to the Vindication, rejoining Kaminsky and Phallic. As they departed Vex-Thor orbit, they witnessed something unprecedented. Krell vessels turning on each other as factions within their society responded to the revelations. "It worked better than we could have hoped," Phallic observed, watching the sensor readings. "The Krell Empire is tearing itself apart from within." 3 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth defense vessel Phoenix, watching as the first human colonists returned to begin the long process of rebuilding their homeworld. Beside her stood representatives from 7 formerly conquered species, including Phallic of the Solari, all part of the newly formed Galactic Concord. "They thought they had erased us from history," Maya said quietly. "Instead, we returned to rewrite it." Phallic's multifaceted eyes gleamed. "The Krell sought to extinguish your light, not realizing that even in darkness, humanity burns brightest." As the shuttle carrying the colonists descended toward Earth's surface, Maya felt a sense of completion. The war wasn't entirely over. Remnants of the Krell military remained loyal to the old regime. But the tide had irrevocably turned. From a species on the brink of extinction, humanity had not only survived, but had emerged as the catalyst for liberation throughout this corner of the galaxy. The stars, once places of terror, now represented hope and possibility. They had been erased, but now they had returned, and the universe would never forget humanity again.